Hi friends, welcome to the third installment of Prairie Wonderland. It's part of the ongoing series Lessons with Laura. And if you're new here, I'm Laura Ingalls Gunn. Today I'm going to be reading you a story from one of my favorite books in the Little House series written by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and that is The Long Winter. And one of the reasons why I enjoy this book so much is, for me, it is so inspirational. If I'm ever feeling frustrated or I don't feel that I have an answer for something, or I don't even maybe have the strength to continue on, I can just read a few chapters in this book. And the Ingalls family, with their love for one another, their concern for their neighbors, perseverance, and just not willing to give up as they face blizzard after blizzard with a shortage of fuel and food. It's just really spectacular. If you've never read it before, you are in for a real treat. I hope you've gotten cozy. My own little Grace Ingalls has decided to join us for story hour. What do you think, Gracie? Are you ready? Now, today's story is chapter 33, Christmas in May, and it's actually the very last chapter in the book. Pa bought groceries that afternoon. It was wonderful to see him coming in with armfuls of packages. Wonderful to see a whole sack of white flour, sugar, dried apples, soda crackers, and cheese. The kerosene can was full. How happy Laura was to fill the lamp, polish the chimney, and trim the wick. At supper time, the light shone through the clear glass onto the red-checked tablecloth and the white biscuits, the warmed-up potatoes, and the platter of fried salt pork. With yeast cakes, Ma set the sponge for a light bread that night, and she put the dried apples to soak for pies. Laura did not need to be called next morning. She was up at dawn, and all day she helped Ma bake and stew and boil the good things for next day's Christmas dinner. Early that morning, Ma added water and flour to the bread sponge and set it to rise again. Laura and Carrie picked over the cranberries and washed them. Ma stewed them with sugar until they were a mass of crimson jelly. Laura and Carrie carefully picked dried raisins from their long stems and carefully took the seeds out of each one. Ma stewed the dried apples, mixed the raisins with them, and made pies. It seems strange to have everything one could want to work with, said Ma. Now I have cream of tartar and plenty of saleratus. I shall make a cake. All day long the kitchen smelled of good things, and when night came, the cupboard held large brown-crusted loaves of white bread, a sugar-frosted loaf of cake, 3 crisp crusted pies, and the jellied cranberries. I wish we could eat them now, Mary said. Seems like I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm waiting for the turkey first, said Laura, and you may have sage in the stuffing, Mary. She sounded generous, but Mary laughed at her. That's only because there aren't any onions for you to use. Now, girls, don't get impatient, Ma begged them. We will have a loaf of light bread and some of the cranberry sauce for supper. So the Christmas feasting was begun the night before. It seemed too bad to lose any of that happy time in sleep. Still, sleeping was the quickest way to tomorrow morning. It was no time at all after Laura's eyes closed till Ma was calling her, and breakfast was today. What a hurrying there was. Breakfast was soon over. Then while Laura and Carrie cleared the table and washed the dishes, Ma prepared the big turkey for roasting and mixed the bread stuffing for it. The May morning was warm and the wind from the prairie smelled of springtime. Doors were open and both rooms could be used once more. Going in and out of the large front room whenever she wanted to gave Laura a spacious and rested feeling, as if she could never be cross again. Ma had already put the rocking chairs by the front windows to get them out of her way in the kitchen. Now the turkey was in the oven and Mary helped Laura draw the table into the middle of the front room. Mary raised its drop leaves and spread smoothly over it the white tablecloth that Laura brought her. Then Laura brought the dishes from the cupboard and Mary placed them around the table. Carrie was peeling potatoes and Grace was running races with herself the length of both rooms. Ma brought the glass bowl filled with glowing cranberry jelly. She set it in the middle of the white tablecloth, and they all admired the effect. Now, I don't know if you have ever had to postpone Christmas, if even by a few days. The waiting is so hard, and the Ingalls family, once you read the entire book, they had to wait for months and months, and they didn't know if they were ever going to see a Christmas again. Now, during the story, it was talking about that the kerosene was full, and one of the things that you may not be familiar with is before electricity, what they did to get light, in addition to candles, was to use oil lamps. And so they would have poured, and this, let me see if I can gently, there we go. Okay, so your oil would get poured into the base. Yes, it's nothing to eat. And this is your wick. This was the wick that was trimmed that Laura was talking about. And you screw it all back together, and then the hurricane lamp comes off. You see that? And you can light your wick, and the oil is drawn up through this wick. And so you put the chimney. I know it's a different type of chimney than what we're used to today. When we say chimney, we think fireplace, but this is the glass chimney that Laura cleaned, and then they had the beautiful light from the oil lamp. So that was what Laura was doing when she was polishing the chimney and trimming the wick. Now, I think we should next go into the kitchen and learn how to make cranberry jelly. This recipe is one of my family's favorites, and we don't just serve it at Christmas time. Cranberry jelly tastes wonderful with turkey, pork, chicken, yummy meatballs, and it is delicious on sandwiches. So get your apron on and let's head into the kitchen. Today we are making a wonderfully easy recipe that is perfect as an accompaniment to cheese, ham, pork, chicken, all throughout the holiday season and into the winter months. And it only has a few ingredients and is a perfect recipe to make with kids. So let's talk about the ingredients first. I have here 1 bag, which equals 1 pound of organic whole cranberries. And if you can kind of see those, and some of them might be a little rose in color or light pink, that's okay. If you have, as you're washing the berries, you find one that is a little bit soft or it looks brown, you definitely want to take that out and put it in the backyard. The birds will love it, but don't put it into your cranberry sauce. In some parts of the country, this recipe is also referred to as cranberry compote. The way it differs from cranberry jelly is jelly, after it has been cooking, you actually strain out the whole berries, and once it cools, it's a beautiful translucent clear red jelly. But cranberry sauce, cranberry compote, it keeps the whole berry in the recipe. So in addition to that, you are going to need 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm using organic sugar, but you can use coconut sugar. You can use brown sugar or traditional white sugar. It just needs to be a granulated type of sugar. If you don't necessarily have a real sweet tooth, you can do a little bit less. If you do have a sweet tooth, you can increase the amount of sugar. So this can fluctuate to your own taste. And you'll need 1/2 cup of orange juice. If by chance you don't have orange juice, apple juice works in a pinch, as well as just plain water. I like to fresh squeeze my orange juice, and then I also like to zest the rind. So this is orange peel that's very thin, and that's called the zest. And basically, you take a zester, and it is this tool that has some tiny holes on the top of it. You can get them in most kitchen aisles or cooking shops. And basically, you can kind of see where I've already done some zesting, but where the orange peel is still intact, you just run it over. It makes a little bit of a mess, but the smell is just incredible. And it might get caught, you know, in the zester. It might splatter all over. That is okay. And then once you've zested it, then that's when I go ahead and I squeeze my oranges. So I'll squeeze these a little bit harder off camera, but I just wanted to show the ingredients, how to create them, and then it is simply just putting everything into a pan. So I'm going to add the cranberries first, and you'll want a little pan or pot that has a lid. And we'll add our orange juice and the sugar, and the cinnamon stick goes into the mixture whole. Once you are ready to serve it, though, you do fish this out so that it is not accidentally ingested. And as always, let's make sure we have clean hands in the kitchen. I am, whenever I cook, I do cook a lot with my hands. Most chefs or bakers when you'll find that they get personal with their food. There's a certain feel that you want. All right, that looks well incorporated. So I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit more of the orange, and then I love to use oranges, lemons, and limes. Once they've done this, you can put them in some water for some orange water. Very flavorful and delicious. You can also make homemade cleaning products, which would be similar to the homemade cleaning products that the pioneers would have used. Oh, it just smells so good, you guys. All right, so I think I've gotten as much as I can out of the oranges. Mix it up a little bit more. All of the sugar has now melted. That looks great. So let me show you this. So see how it's all incorporated, and now we are going to take it over to the stove top, and on a very low heat, I am going to allow it to slowly cook, minimum 30 minutes. Now, if you are pressed for time, you can absolutely turn up the heat to medium, and then it can be cooked within 15 to 20 minutes. If you can do a slow cooking time, that really just incorporates all the flavors, and it's absolutely delicious. Now, last week I talked about how the Victorians and pioneers would bring in evergreens indoors to help brighten up the space when it was cold and gloomy. And particularly during the holiday season, some Victorians and pioneers would also create a special Advent wreath to mark the days until Christmas arrived. And you might be more familiar with this custom with an Advent calendar. Today, children are often given an Advent calendar on December the 1st, and each day they'll open up a little window, and sometimes there's a little present or a piece of candy or maybe a verse or story. But this is a little bit different. This is a weekly Advent wreath that they would make and keep as a centerpiece. So let's head on into the craft area and make an Advent centerpiece. To create an Advent centerpiece, you'll want to select a container, and that can be a bowl, a jar, a plate, a tray, a wooden box. There are many lovely ideas that you can see on Pinterest if you need some inspiration. I like to use this very old bundt pan that belonged to my mom, Nadine. It looks very rustic, and once all the greens are in it, you can't really tell that it's a bundt pan. And so I have collected a wide variety of pine branches. They're a little bit different in shape. You have that, and then you have some cedar. Oh, the cedar smells so good. You have this one with its little tiny pretty berries, and it has this beautiful drape. Now, if you don't happen to have access to greenery in your neighborhood, a clever trick that you might want to try is to pay a visit to your local Christmas tree lot or Christmas tree farm. They usually cut off bottom branches and a little bit of the trunk, whenever individual purchases a Christmas tree, and all of those excess branches are just thrown away into the trash or recycled. And so in other locations that I've lived in past years, I've simply taken my truck over and said, hey, do you have any extra greenery that you're looking to get rid of? And they are more than happy to give that to you. So you can see that in my centerpiece, I have cut up little pieces of Florist Oasis. And Oasis comes in blocks like this or bigger, and it is very easily cut with a serrated knife. And you soak it in water and it really absorbs. And that's how your greenery stays alive and so vibrant for the 4 weeks that you are counting down Advent. Now, there may be a few sprigs that you'll have to remove and replace with fresh, but overall, the evergreens really keep very nicely. And the first thing that you want to do is position your 4 candles. Now, the first candle is also known as the promise candle, and it represents hope for the season. And this year, in 2023, the first Sunday in Advent is going to be on December 3rd, so that's coming up in a few days. Now, the second candle is the Bethlehem candle, and it represents peace, and that will be lit on the second Sunday in Advent on December 10th. The third candle is the Shepherd's candle, and that represents joy. And they'll be a little bit floppy until you get all the greenery in here. That's okay. Don't worry too much about it. And that candle will be lit on December the 17th. And the very last candle is lit on Christmas Eve, and that's known as the angel candle. And it represents love. So I think those are all really nice things to reflect on through the holiday season. Hope, peace, joy, and love. And you can do corresponding verses each week as a family when you're gathered around the dinner table. That's what we do. And you can talk about what are ways that first week, what are you hoping for? What are you hoping for the world? And it's just a great conversation starter. So now we're ready to add the greenery. So I've created a base layer with the thickest branches. And then next, I'm gonna fill in with this delicate cedar. And some of them I tuck into the Oasis, and some of them I just kind of lay into, this one I'll tuck it into the Oasis. And then I just keep twisting. I twist and turn. So that one I'm just gonna tuck there. And sometimes you have to, if it has a curve, just sort of gently see if you can bend, or maybe flip it over. Sometimes that works too. So we'll put that one. You just have to keep turning it because it's going to be on a table, our formal dining table. You know, I like to kind of make sure that it's going to be pretty from each angle. And this one I'll stick into the Oasis, and you just kind of, this one needs a little bit more. That wasn't a very big piece. I think I'm getting a secondary base. And then this last section, which will go on top, has these pretty berries. So again, I'm just gonna try and twist and turn. We're just gonna lay, this one will go right into the oasis. This is a shorter piece, maybe down in here. That's pretty. We need some more berries over here. Just kind of, oh, here's another piece of cedar that I missed earlier. Okay, so just keep turning. I need a longer piece over here. So let's see what we can do. There we go. Just kind of adjust. And you know, again, your candles, until you get everything all together, I'm gonna look at it a little bit. This is sticking up a little bit. You know, as they'll normally droop too. So let's see, I think maybe a little bit longer piece over in here. And it's starting to come together. I've used all of my greenery and I think it looks pretty good. Once I get it over to the table, I'll add some water and give it a final once over to see if there's anything we need to add. But that is a wonderfully fragrant and decorative way to celebrate the season. Grace and I thank you so much for joining us for this week's Prairie Wonderland. And we will be back next week with another story, craft, and recipe. If you'd like to be notified when the video uploads, you can hit the subscribe button that is located in the lower corner. And as always, I appreciate thumbs up, and any comments that you have down below are also greatly appreciated. There are additional photos, descriptions, and a recipe card on my website, and the direct link for that is down below in the description box. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey.